you. This is such a big pleasure to be here. Thank you, Molly, for opening the conference. We have already some traditions over 3 years, but there are many new people who haven't been here before. So let me make a question for you. Everybody who is for the first time in MyData conference, raise your hand up. Okay, so those who have been here before, raise your hand up. In my judgment, it would be 40% before, 60% are new ones. So my main mission is to give you a little bit of conversational tools for the conference, because this is a unique moment. I can get attention from hundreds of people, and you will be enjoying the conference for 3 days, and perhaps if I succeed, you can use some of these metaphors over the conference and make the discussions better. This is unique. I think there was the interdisciplinarity was one angle in the poll. We have people from very many different backgrounds, and that's necessity, because human-centric personal data, changing the paradigm how personal data is managed in the world, it cannot be done only by, let's say, lawyers, or only by engineers, or only by business people, or only by academians. It needs really different kinds of views. And that makes it so nice to be here, but it's also the challenge, because sometimes you don't find the common language with somebody who is coming from different culture, different background, different knowledge. So some conversational tools, that's what I'm trying to give you. Yeah, this is my bicycle. It's the robust bicycle built in Denmark. I'm very proud of it. It's called Bullet. I will come back to that bike in a moment, but before that, I remind you about MyData Declaration that was actually published a year ago in MyData 2017 conference. It's a short piece of paper. If you haven't seen it, you could go at some coffee break to watch it over. It's in mydata.org/declaration. And that was written with the community members who had been here before and internationally striving to the same goals. And in the declaration, we have 3 shifts where MyData wants to go, or what MyData wants to change in the world. So the first shift is from formal rights to actionable rights. Everybody might know that there is the new General Data Protection Regulation now in force in Europe. So that's formal rights. We have actually some new rights. For example, right to get our data in digital format, which was not there before. But in order to make that serve us and people and companies and communities, we need to make it really happen in practical sense. And therefore, we need new kind of technologies, we need new kind of business practices so that we actually can get our data in actionable right. And the second shift that is mentioned in the declaration is from data protection to data empowerment. So the data protection is often starting from the point of view that we people, we are small individuals, and we need to be protected against big, giant corporations that are trying to abuse us and our data. So protection is necessity. We need to have it. I'm not trying to say that protection is bad, but at the same time, we can also get to use our own data, get benefits from our data to ourselves. And that's the shift that MyData is striving for, building on top of good data protection regulation, also the practical ways how we could get our data and share it to others under our own control. And that would lead then to the third shift, which is from closed to open ecosystems. So we see the world as being better if there are more different kind of actors interconnecting, being interoperable, and not like only big closed systems that are ruling the world. This is how it says in the declaration. Our overriding goal is to empower individuals to use their personal data to their own ends and to securely share them under their own terms. And I'm inviting everybody who thinks that, okay, there is some problems with the declaration. It's still open process. We are going to make a new version of it at some point in the future. But I think that it covers quite well the essential things what we are here for now in Helsinki for the 3 days. So going back to my bike. So actually I will show the bike. No, okay. I will not mess with the order. So we had the slogan in MyData. It was actually in the first conference that the slogan was developed, make it happen, make it right. So the vision of human-centric personal data, I think that quite many of us can share it. It's easy to say that that's how it should be, but it's not so easy to make it happen. And there are two ways how it can fail. If we make MyData happen, it may fail that we didn't quite see all the possible paths that it can take. We can create some sort of monster. Frankenstein's MyData. Maybe our data is super fluid, it can flow from place to another, and there is technical means for me to control, but maybe we forget something. Maybe people are actually just clicking manically, yes, 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 I agree on the terms of service, yes, yes, yes. So it may get like rogue in a sense. We made it happen, maybe there is business value, maybe there is technical means, and maybe it's not completely illegal, but it still might not benefit the society. So that's one way to fail MyData. And that's why there is the part make it right. But other way to fail MyData is to make it very right, but not make it happen. Then someone else will make something else happen, and that's not, then we are not influencing it. So now I get back to my bike. So I'm still very proud of my Danish bike. I see the Danish delegation sitting here in the front row. So I have 3 parts in my bike that I really appreciate a lot. There is the pedals. I can make my bike move. There are brakes. I can make my bike stop. And there is the steering system. I can guide the way where my bike goes. And this goes back to this make it happen, make it right. So there are people from different backgrounds. Some are criticizing that maybe this is not the good way and you should focus more on that, and making loud noise of where we are going, and even sometimes pushing the brake. And then there are people, I would say mostly engineers, who are like pedaling like crazy. They are really building stuff. And I'm not saying that there is always that engineers never brake or steer, or the other way around, that those who are trying to steer or sometimes brake, that they would not assist at all in the pedaling. So it's not like either or, but quite often people are in a little bit more focused on one side or the other. And that's okay. That's why we are many here. We don't need to be everybody on all sides, but we need to be able to listen to each other. Also, when if you are pedaling like crazy and somebody is pushing the brake, it might feel that, this is not nice. But in the end, if we communicate well, we can steer the bike and it can go fast. So now let's get back to screen.io. And my question for you, this is kind of self-reflection moment regarding the make it happen and make it right. Can we have the poll there? So first question is that how focused you are in making it happen. Are you more on the peddler side? You can choose it from 1 to 100 or 0 to 100. And the same question for how much you care about steering or even braking sometimes. So making it right. Let's have a moment for everybody This is quite interesting. People, that's good. That's definitely good that people choose both, not so much either or. But I also appreciate the honesty if you put there that you are only 20 or less % of making it right, and you are almost 100 making it happen. And there is nothing wrong with that. So let's see how this may turn out over the conference if you end up in discussions with somebody from the other parts of the same field. I think that's my first conversation tool. When you meet other person and you enter into discussions, you can conversation whether you are in the making happen or make it right path or both. So can I get back to the slides? Thanks. Okay, so there are other conversation tool. What kind of vehicle is this bicycle? So who makes it move and who steers it? We have been looking the MyData or personal data paradigm change so that it needs different kinds of players. And there is definitely business people. So there are many who are actually starting companies, building companies, working for big or small companies, and look this from the business perspective. It means making decisions that are sustainable in the profit-wise, and even using the businesses as the path to create the new world. We have the use cases track. I recommend people joining that track and to see a couple of the businesses there. Then we have the legal side. We have some amount of lawyers, legal people here. The next session actually here on the main stage will be about European data protection regulator and corporate lawyer on stage at the same time discussing what is the big picture of regulatory environment. And laws are not stable. They are not here forever. I mean, GDPR was started back in 2009. At that time, nobody knew about blockchains, or AI was not so much discussed. It's a 10-year process. Now we have GDPR, but it's not stopping there. Also, the regulatory environment is moving. And by the way, in almost half of the world's countries, there is no data protection regulation at all yet in place. I spent this summer 1 month in Brazil, and they just got accepted the new regulation there, but the president used his veto right to take the data protection authority away from the law. So now they have the law but no authority, which is interesting. Then there is the technical part. There are people who are passionate about building things and making new ways of managing personal data. So there needs to be that in order to it all to work. And now I repeat the point that maybe there is the business people and legal people and technical people, they find a way to do something which is not illegal, which works and which is good business. And it still might not magically create a good society. We don't know what is good society and how to create it, but we need to be aware of that point that even with our best intentions, it might not come. I think that nobody thought that in the 90s that, okay, let's create this kind of internet business ecosystem that is based on the advertisements, where nobody actually pays for anything, but your data is flowing everywhere. It was not planned action, but it happens. And I come back to what Molly said, that these things may lock down for quite a long time. So before we are locking down what is the path for MyData, I think we need to have those 4 kinds of aspects there. So this is called BLT sandwich. So that's the second conversation tool. You can always remember BLT sandwich, business, legal, technical, and the society. Society is the sandwich. I'm sorry for the vegetarians who don't like so much the bacon. Maybe there are bacon or vegetarian business people, so this is no offense for you, but it's a good way to remember. the BLT sandwich. So let's ask again in screen.io, in which one of these four categories you identify most yourself, whether you are more business, legal, technology, or society person. Whoa, that's going fast up and down. Quite balanced, except for legal. So I think this is clear message that we should get more legal people in the room. But otherwise, I think that's surprisingly balanced. Congratulations. Next year, we get more legal people here. Okay, can we get back to the slides? So one more thing that I want to say is that MyData has had this short history of 3 years now as a conference. First year, people came here and saw that, whoa, I'm not alone. There are many other people doing the same kind of things. Last year, there was the declaration. The community started to solidify, and we created what we call MyData local hubs. So people in different countries and cities, they started to set up their own MyData communities in a local level. And as a logical continuum for that, this year we are setting up MyData Global as a non-profit, global non-profit based in Finland. So that's the big step here. And now as I know that there are quite many people, more than half, who has not been here before, I'm just saying you that welcome to this journey together with those who have been here before. If you feel alienated or alone here, just go and talk to somebody else. And those who have been here before, guide the newcomers in. This is kind of a big family, I would like to say. Big family that is really striving to make change in the world. It might be weird to come in the family party if you don't really know the other people there. So this is my message for you to talk with the others. Here are the local hubs at this moment. So there are more than 20. It's not intentional that California is cut out from the map. Somebody pointed out it to me. We are just expecting somebody from the West Coast to set up a hub there, so I need to squeeze the map a little bit. Most of the local hubs are still rather small, a couple of people getting together, having meetups every now and then, but some of those are getting more robust. They have companies involved, they have projects starting, and they are really actually insisting that we need to set up the MyData as an international organization. And you and your organization can be members, so you can become a founding member of MyData Global. There will be 50-50 share of power in the organization between individual members and organizational members. That's something that we have discussed a lot, that this movement really brings together the businesses and civil society, and that's the unique point so that we can make it happen and make it right. So there will be half of the voting power in the association for the organizational members and half for the individuals. So we have the preparatory meeting on this Thursday at 6:30 after the conference day here at the main stage. So if you are interested to see what's going to happen with the global organization, hang around there. And in 1 month's time, 11th of October, 4 p.m. Finnish time, we will have an inaugural meeting that will be streamed online, and you can participate from your home countries. So I think that we don't have screen.io in this moment, but I thank you and welcome Molly back on stage.
Stay here. Okay, so I see a lot of you have been figuring out Screen.io on your own. Yogi, we're going to hold you here for a minute because something I should have noted is if you have any questions, most presentations will have some Q&A at the end, this one included, and you can write your questions in Screen.io, and the moderator will be taking note, and so you can have some Q&A that way. And I see you all have noticed that you can +1 people's comments and stuff like that. It seems like there's already some debate happening, which is nice. So one thing that I will ask you from the questions, I like your BLT sandwich concept. Here we go. Are these different things really separable? Someone noted that legal tech is the field to go into, but in terms of separating these fields out, have you found in your experience that there are a lot of people that are really involved in one thing or another, or most are a combo?
I think definitely that these should not be separated, and that's why we have them all here. But just looking at yourself, everybody of us, we have 24 hours in a day. So how much can one person do? So in the level of individuals, there are these bridge builders who have one foot in here and the other foot there, and these are important. But then there are also these deep experts that are just sticking on their own area. So I think in individual level, they are more or less, you just cannot do everything.
Yeah. And then this is a really interesting question. I want to build off of this. So the question is, what are the primary functions of a local MyData country organization? But I'd also like to expand that and ask you, when you all were getting started on MyData, did you envision this as something that would become global? Was that the intention from the beginning, or were you focusing on Finland?
Well, in the beginning, I think that we were pretty much focusing on Finland. It's an interesting history. We wrote white paper for the Minister of Transportation and Communication in Finland, and somebody recommended that maybe there should be an English version of it. And you were helping us to make the translation, and personally I didn't have much of expectation that what would happen after that, and we started to get connections all over the world. Some people read the paper and they were saying, we are doing the same. We are having this and that piece for the puzzle. So for me, it was a surprise that it started to grow international. But when it started to grow, then it was so natural that, of course, why would we have been in Finland like the gods with this, the same idea that, of course, everybody is thinking it. But I just didn't see it before I saw it.
Yeah, and so then now that there are these local chapters popping up elsewhere around the world, but kind of connected to this MyData umbrella, what would you say are the primary functions of a local country organization?
I think it's definitely doing stuff, because how we started in Finland, we have the so-called MyData Alliance, which has some 40 different organizations, big companies, small companies, public sector organizations, and they are we are educating together what's happening in the world, what can be done, and setting up projects, real pilots, building up stuff. And that kind of activity is always harder if you, of course, I hope that there will be also international big, large-scale implementations, but it's easier to start locally. So building stuff, and then also just spreading the message and having the conversations and bringing the local into the global, because personal data and identity questions, they are very rooted in your local environment. I don't know how people react to these kind of ideas in Japan, but Japanese people do know.
Yeah. So the next question I have for you is, are there any highlights for you from 2017 for how to make this happen? And I would also like to include in that, in the time since 2017, you've been doing a lot. You've been really plugged into different developments that are happening around the world. Are there any major things that are sticking out at you as kind of where the road forward is pointing?
Well, as a personal learning curve or path, I think that 2017 conference for me, I think you said it in your closing speech, that we need to be truly international, global. So this was still quite much focused in Europe. Now I think we are much more beyond Europe, global, and as I said that I spent some time in Brazil, it really opened my eyes. There was a conference where it was opened like on stage, there was a person who had no government provided ID because she has been born in favela, and she fought for 10 years to get actually registered in the first place. So for me this year has been quite much seeing that what's happening in different parts of the world. So that's my personal learning, but there are of course many other things happening. Everybody has done something for this over the year.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you one last question that maybe is kind of a gimme, I don't know. Making it right for whom? When we talk about making it right and making it happen, are we talking about everybody truly, or who will be most affected by making MyData happen?
That's the making it right question. That's super hard. I mean, if anybody has ever studied ethics, applied ethics, what it actually means, it's always dependent on the context. What is ethical and good, and what is good for whom might be bad for the others. So my kind of hint there is that you need to embed the thinking of what is right into the process. You cannot predefine that this is it, that's how it will be in 10 years or 15 years, and that's good for everybody. But you need to constantly come back in your choices, daily choices, to figure out what kind of consequences this might have. And we do need also more philosophers. We need more lawyers, but we need also more philosophers in this community.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jogi. Another round of applause for Jogi.